The American Express Gold Card is one of my favorite cards. At the same time, just because it makes sense for me, doesn't mean it makes sense for most people. Today we're going to run through some alternatives and the pros and cons. Big favor before we dive in is to hit the like button to help with the algorithm. If you know someone that might benefit, then share this with them. Okay, starting with the Amex Gold, the main draw is the multipliers. It's one of the strongest earners out there for two specific categories. You're getting 4x on restaurants worldwide and up to 50k in spend per calendar year. After that, it's 1x back until next year. You're also getting 4x on groceries at US supermarkets on up to 25k in spend per calendar year. There are other multipliers, but I feel like they're less of a factor. So for example, 3x on flights booked directly with airlines or on amextravel.com, and also 2x on prepaid hotels and other travel booked through amextravel.com. 3x is fine, but I'd argue 2 and 1 don't really matter since there are other cards that offer 2 on everything. One of the big downsides of the card is the big annual fee of $325. You do get a bit of help via the credits, up to $120 in Uber Cash, which is broken down monthly, so up to $10 per month, and also up to $84 for Dunkin', which is up to $7 per month. These are great if you actively use these services, but if not, they are use or lose. So for example, let's say you have a credit for April. If you don't use it then in May, it's gone. And to be fair, there are other ways to use the credits, but it's just a bit more annoying than people like. Another one of the monthly credits is up to $120 for dining, and it's up to $10 per month. So it sounds great because everyone eats, but it's not as broad as you might think. It's only with specific partners, and right now, as of filming, it's Grubhub, Cheesecake Factory, Goldbelly, Wine.com, and Five Guys. Also, a reminder for all of these, enrollment is required. Grubhub ends up being the tactic here, but it's still annoying, especially if you don't like doing takeout or if you don't want to think about it. The last one's up to 100 Resi credit, and it's broken down into up to 50 semi-annually. So this is any restaurant part of the Resi network. You don't have to make a reservation through Resi or do anything else or pay through them. You just use your card at one of those restaurants, and that's fine. In some of their core cities like New York, you have a ton of restaurants, so almost 1,000, but for other ones, it's going to be tougher. So given all of this, I'd say that there's two main disadvantages of the card. The first one is if you don't live in a major city and you don't use these services, then at best, the credits are annoying, and at worst, you can't use them. There is an edge case for people that eat out a lot and eat very well, but that's still a bit tougher, and you probably need to spend quite a bit for it to work out. But yeah, this might be why they added the cap to the card for dining. The other major disadvantage is that you are earning points. That's perfect if you're optimizing towards travel, and especially premium stuff and aspirational stuff like first and business class. If anything, this is where points and miles play a pretty big role. For a lot of people, they're not interested in that. They'd rather do more trips rather than less trips that are nicer. Mind you, I like those trips, and that's why I have a lot of cards and got a lot of intro bonuses, but that's not all people. The other issue is that you're earning points and not cash back. So if you do want to redeem for cash back, you're going to get less value. Case in point, one of my cousins wanted one card to use. They don't want this. Technically, if you are willing to get the Business Platinum or the Schwab Platinum, then it still kind of works for cash back, but now you're adding in an extra card, a big annual fee, and also a ton of credits. And it's also a travel card. That can work, and I know a lot of people that love that setup, but it is a lot tougher for lower cost of living areas and if you can't use the credits. But yeah, for all of this, it is a math decision, and I definitely recommend running the numbers for your situation and adjusting as necessary. So for this, we do have a calculator that you can play with and punch in your numbers. I'll link it down below, but it should also pop up if you Google Amex Gold Worth It Ask Sebi. Also, if it does end up making sense, I'd recommend checking Card Match for elevated offers. So some people have pulled 90,000 points or higher for the gold card, and I think it's well worth 30 seconds to check. Okay, so let's say you ran the numbers and it still doesn't make sense. What are the best alternatives? There's a few go-to cards I recommend, and it depends on whether you want an annual fee and whether you want optionality. One of the most popular options is the City Strata Premier. So kind of the same idea of the gold card, but with more categories. Starting off, you get 3x at restaurants and also supermarkets. Note that supermarkets here is not just specific to the US, it's going to be globally. So if you travel a lot or you split time, then this might be more useful. You also get 3x back at gas stations and for EV charging stations. On top of this, there are some interesting travel multipliers. So you're going to get 10x back on hotels, car rentals, and attractions, booked through citytravel.com, and 3x on air travel and other hotel purchases, booked separately. The downside is that there is an annual fee and also a credit. $95 annual fee, and you have a $100 annual hotel benefit where you get $100 off a single hotel stay of $500 or more, not counting taxes and fees. This could be one stay at a very expensive hotel or multiple nights at a cheaper one. This is a great option if you don't like the monthly credits and dealing with that process. For me personally, I'm generally not a fan of credits where there's a minimum spend. For whatever reason, it feels more like a discount rather than a straight credit. So for example, for the gold card, I could spend $4 on Uber, and that's fine, that still works. I'm not being forced to spend $10 or $50 in order to trigger the credit. I could also be weird though, so your mileage may vary. Another really good option, and one of my favorites to recommend right now, is the Capital One Saver. So you have no annual fee, there's pretty good multipliers, and you still have optionality for travel. For the two after this, you're picking between cashback or points and miles, and here you kind of have both options. You'd be surprised how many cashback people end up becoming travel people, especially once they find a player too. And funny enough, that's actually what happened to me. I started as cashback and then moved towards travel. Taking a look at the multipliers, you're getting 3% cashback on grocery stores, dining, entertainment, and also popular streaming. Similar to the City one, this is grocery stores worldwide, not just in the US. Also, the Saver card has no foreign transaction fees, which is pretty good for a no annual fee card. On top of this, you're getting 5% cash back for hotels and car rentals booked through Capital One Travel, and 8% cash back for Capital One Entertainment. Okay, but this sounds like cash back. So right now you are earning cash back, but if you end up adding other Capital One cards, like the Venture X, then you can convert that cash back into miles. 300 cash back could be 30,000 miles, and you can then transfer that to partners for that upside. So that means right now you can focus on cash back, but if your priorities change, then you can transfer that to miles and do first in business and have that upside. For a lot of the other ones, if you start with cash back and then try to move to miles, you're starting at the bottom again, but here you kind of match right over. It depends on you, but life can change pretty fast and you want those options. On a side note, if you want to learn about these cards or pretty much any other cards out there and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksebi.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense for you, but otherwise it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. Okay, what if you want an Amex card though, and your focus is more on groceries? The rationale being that there are a ton of cards out there that do dining pretty well. One really popular pick is the Blue Cash Everyday. This does earn cash back, and the cash back here cannot be turned into points. Cashback is cashback, and points is points with Amex. Here you're getting 3% back at groceries at US supermarkets on the first 6,000 spend per calendar year. After that, you're only getting 1%. In order to hit the cap on a monthly basis, you're looking at 500 spend for grocery stores. On top of that, you're getting 3% back on US online retail purchases on up to 6,000 spend per calendar year. Not too shabby at all if you like online shopping. One other beneficial one is 3% back on gas at US gas stations on up to 6K in spend per calendar year. Also note that each of these are different caps and pools, so even if you hit 6 on one, then you still have room for the other ones. This is also a no annual fee card, and I'd argue a keeper card. This is where the tangible credits are higher than the annual fee, and here, since there's no annual fee, if you get any credits, if you derive any value, then it's a keeper. The first one's up to 84 for Disney Bundle, and it's up to 7 per month, and after spending $9.99 each month. It does have to be on an eligible auto-renewing subscription, but that feels pretty fair. The other one's up to 180 for Home Chef, and it's up to 15 per month. Disney tends to be the easy one and more viable one, but depends on you. Worst case, it's no annual fee, so that's free value. The other major option that's pretty similar is the Blue Cash Preferred, which is the older brother leveled up version of the card. It is a bit different with the multipliers, and it also has an annual fee. So it does have a $0 intro annual fee for the first year, but after that, it's $95. In terms of credits, it's the same Disney Bundle credit, so you could argue that it might be a non-factor and shouldn't sway your decision. The idea being that you get under the annual fee card and no annual fee, so you're impartial. The main draw for most people are the multipliers. You're getting 6% back on groceries on up to 6,000 spend at US supermarkets. I'd say that this is the main draw and why people get the card. You also get 6% back on select US streaming services, 3% back on transit, and 3% back at US gas stations. I'd be careful on the streaming multiplier and overvaluing it because most people don't have that many streaming services. Or even if you have a ton, it probably doesn't add up to that much. 3% back for transit is super nice though, and same with the uncapped 3% back for US gas stations. Especially because the latter is a tougher category. If you are deciding between the Blue Cash Everyday and the Blue Cash Preferred, it does become a math question. For our purpose, we're going to isolate and focus on US supermarkets because otherwise it becomes too multivariable. Where X is US supermarket spends, you put two cards on different sides, and then solve the equation. In our case, solving for x, we have 95 divided by 0.03, which is $3,167. So if you spend exactly that amount per year on groceries, on US groceries, then you're impartial, but if you spend more, the blue cash preferred makes more sense. As a monthly number, 3167 divided by 12 is 264. If you're a single person with a very simple diet, then maybe a bit tougher, but if you're two people, and especially a family, it's not unreasonable to hit in most cases. Also, if you do add the other categories, then the numbers, of course, can change. If you are debating between these two cards and you want to factor in all the multipliers, I did end up making another calculator that you can play with. I'll link it down below, but yeah, hopefully it's helpful. Another option for groceries is the City Custom Cash. So this is a bit of a weird card and you'd only want to use it for this specific category. The main reason is because you get 5% back on your top spend category and up to 500 spend per billing cycle. So even though you have a lot of options, you're kind of incentivized to pick one and stick with it. Similar to Capital One, you are earning cash back, but you can transfer it out to miles with the right cards. In addition to these ones, there are other alternatives if you have large investment balances with banks like Merrill Lynch. Outside of that though, these would be my top 5 picks for alternatives to the gold card. You probably still want to add a dining card, but there's a lot of other cards that do that, and that's a bit more fungible. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, askzebby.com, and also down below in the description box. If you made it to this point, leave a shopping cart emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 2 questions. Number 1, do you benefit from the Amex Gold card? And number 2, if not, which alternative would you pick? Big favor, hit the like button, share this, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.